Today, we're going to talk about something that is quietly but very powerfully reshaping our entire world. It's driving economies, it's fueling global conflicts, and honestly, once you understand it, you start seeing who really holds the cards on the world stage. We're talking about natural gas. So, let me ask you a quick question. If you had to guess the world's most valuable traded fuel, or even just one of the most valuable commodities in general, what would you pick? Is it oil? Gold? Maybe something high-tech like microchips?
Well, for the longest time, oil would have been the right answer, no question. But things have been changing, and changing dramatically, pretty much right under our feet. The energy landscape today looks totally different than it did just a decade ago.
I mean, just look at the sheer scale of the natural gas market now. It's absolutely staggering. The global trade in gas is now bigger than the trade in cars. It's even bigger than the trade in gold. It's become this economic behemoth, and when something is that valuable, you can be sure it's also a powerful tool of influence.
And this is not a new story. For centuries, whoever controls the world's dominant energy source, well, they've pretty much called the shots. To really get what's happening with gas today, we have to rewind a bit and look at the playbook that was written for oil.
Okay, so for decades after World War II, the US dollar was backed by actual gold. Simple enough. But by the 70s, there was a problem. The US had spent so much that there were way more dollars floating around the world than there was gold in the vaults to back them up. So, in a move that absolutely rattled the global economy, President Nixon just cut the cord. He severed the link to gold. And all of a sudden, the dollar needed a new anchor, something to keep its value. And it found one in oil.
The solution was brilliant, really. It was called the petrodollar system. The U.S. made a deal with Saudi Arabia, the king of oil production, to price all of their oil exports only in U.S. dollars. The Saudis got military protection, a guaranteed customer, and in return, the dollar got a whole new foundation.
And this created this incredibly powerful self-perpetuating loop. Think about it. If you're any country in the world and you need to buy oil, and everybody needs oil, you first have to buy U.S. dollars. This created a permanent global demand for the currency. Then, to make it even better, all those dollars, now called petrodollars, often got invested right back into the U.S. economy. It was a masterstroke that cemented the dollar's position as the world's reserve currency.
This really says it all, doesn't it? Control the energy, and you have massive leverage over everyone else. This idea is pretty much the key to understanding the last 100 years of geopolitics. And today, as gas becomes more and more important, a whole new battle for control is heating up.
But here's the thing with gas. It has one huge feature that makes it totally different from oil or coal. It's a real pain to transport. You can't just put it in a barrel and stick it on a ship. And how you move it, well, that shapes the entire market and creates two completely different competing strategies.
So on one side, you've got these massive pipelines. They're fixed, A to B. It's like a marriage, a long-term, stable partnership. On the other side, you have liquefied natural gas, or LNG. What you do here is you cool the gas way down to minus 162 degrees Celsius. It turns into a liquid, and then you can put it on a tanker and ship it literally anywhere in the world. It's not a marriage. It's an open market.
And when we say pipelines are a commitment, we mean it. We're talking about tens of billions of dollars. I mean, $55 billion for just one pipeline. Nobody, and I mean nobody, invests that kind of cash without a rock-solid, multi-decade contract locking in the buyer on the other end. This is the world of stable, predictable energy. But then, a new technology came along and just blew it all up.
In the late 2000s, things like hydraulic fracturing, fracking, and horizontal drilling suddenly unlocked these enormous reserves of natural gas that were trapped in shale rock all across the U.S. And this wasn't just a little extra supply. It was a tidal wave of new energy that would completely redraw the global map.
Just look at this jump. It's wild. In about 10 years, U.S. natural gas production basically doubled. The country was practically drowning in cheap, abundant gas. And this, well, it started as a problem, but it very quickly turned into a massive opportunity.
So the end result was this complete 180. The U.S. went from planning to be a huge gas importer to suddenly becoming the world's #1 exporter. This was a seismic shift, and it caught everyone, even the industry insiders, completely off guard.
This anecdote about a guy named Sharif Suki just perfectly captures the chaos. He'd spent billions building this brand new state-of-the-art terminal to import LNG into the United States. Then, bam, the shale boom hits, and he had to turn around and spend billions more just to reverse the whole thing so he could export gas instead. The rules of the game had completely changed overnight. So, you've got all this new American gas. Where do you sell it? Well, you go to the premium market where you can get the best prices. And that meant Europe. This basically set the stage for a direct collision course between Russia's old pipeline model and America's new, flexible LNG model.
For decades, Europe's gas supply was pretty straightforward. It was dominated by one huge supplier, Russia, all connected by this spider web of massive pipelines. Before 2022, about 40% of the EU's natural gas came from Russia, all based on that long-term, stable pipeline marriage model.
So this really sets up a fundamental clash between two philosophies. The old Russian model gave you stability. The price of gas was linked to the average price of oil, so it was predictable. The new model, the one pushed by the US and others, is a spot market. The price is whatever supply and demand says it is on that particular day, just like a stock. It gives you flexibility, sure, but you give up all that stability.
And the consequence of moving away from those long-term contracts? Extreme volatility. I mean, just wild price swings. When global demand shot up, European prices went through the roof. It got so bad that governments, like Germany, had to set aside hundreds of billions of euros in subsidies just to protect their people and their industries from the price shock.
So as the world tries to move away from old dependencies, especially on Russian energy, you hear this new story all the time. The narrative is that the big switch to green energy will finally bring true energy independence. But is that really how it's going to work?
This is probably the most important question for the next decade. If you build your own solar panels and your own wind turbines right here at home, does that mean you are finally free from depending on other countries for your energy and your economic security?
Well, when you look closer, it seems like we're just trading one set of dependencies for another. Instead of depending on gas from one country, maybe you now depend on solar panels that are all manufactured in China, or the rare earth metals needed for wind turbines, or even things like fertilizer, which is vital for our food and is often made using cheap natural gas. You're still part of a global chain.
This proverb, which was mentioned in the source material, really just sums up the whole tension at the heart of this story. What's better? A little bit for a long time, that long-term stability, or a lot for just one time, chasing the flexibility and high prices of the open market. Right now, it feels like the world is trying to have it both ways and is living with the consequences.
So I think the biggest takeaway here is this. In a world as interconnected as ours, true energy independence might just be a myth. The game isn't really about getting rid of dependency. It's about choosing your dependencies carefully. The real question isn't if you'll have to rely on other nations, but who you choose to rely on.